Welcome back, writers. We are here for another session, another writing session of Writing Dayton's Anointing. And today I want to talk about, we're not going to update that, but today we are going to talk about why the vast majority of people do not finish their books in the background as we are writing. And I want to talk about this topic because there are a lot of people that ask me, what's the hardest part about writing a book? And I'll be honest with you, after writing three and now working on the fourth with you guys, it is sitting down to write. And this topic is on my mind today because today I did not want to sit down and write. I didn't want to sit down and do the thing. So we're going to talk about that. But first, let's recap what we did last episode. So, last episode, we wrote chapter 5, our supposed chapter 5 up here. I don't know if these chapters will stay, but this is our fifth section, our fifth scene, so to say. We're just going to reread just so we can get a bit of context for what is going on. Well, what happened was, um, the two main characters went to the dojo and they just wanted to feel something normal and they were practicing and their master started to notice that things were just not all there, and we ended the scene with our main character being called out. So it talks about the reformation and a bit of character building. So as they were just adding, as they were training, I wanted to add context to give the viewer, do a little world building. Now, when we do world building, it's also very important to not just tell the audience about the world. We want to let the story build the world as we tell it. So they'll understand the world as the story progresses. We don't want to just come out and say, oh, this is this magical, mythical world with dragons and flying tigers and Cerberuses, and we don't want to just tell them that. We want the story to show them that. Something I learned from one of the writers that I study, Brandon Sanderson. Let me know if any of you have read any of his books. I definitely like the Mistborn first book in the trilogy. That's the one I've read. I'm still working on the others, but it was one of the inspirations for even starting this channel because I got to read his books and listen to his lecture series. So I took this, my own version. Now we're going to write this book live. So, as we saw, Master Wiggins, the master of the dojo, was stern, sometimes to a fault. But the boys would never entertain. But the boys would never. Oh, that is definitely not formatted right. That was is not supposed to be there. But the boys would never. But the boys would never entertain the idea that he was a bad teacher. His discipline was admirable, and they needed his influence. Without structure, they were doomed. Nothing more than the animals surviving, nothing more than the animals struggling to survive like those they defended themselves against. Despite their protests, they knew it was a privilege to train under Master Shui and his disciple, Master Wiggins. It was a moment of fortune that they had the opportunity at all. Master Shui rarely took on students. Wiggins had been his only one since the war, and it was Wiggins who persuaded him to allow the boys to train at the temple. Before their monumental shift, they were thieves, stealing to get by and struggling to feed themselves. But with their master's help, they became something more, honorable young men who helped out their community. They still had a bit of a mean streak from their survival days, but they were learning to tame the beast within themselves, just as their masters had when they were in their youth. Are you ready to tell the truth behind your scars, Drayton? Or shall we train until you are completely covered? Master Shui's eyes were piercing. There wasn't the potency of violence or bloodlust, but Drayton knew he was serious. Now, for this, the beauty about writing is that we control the timeline and what people see and what people don't see. So we don't actually have to include Drayton telling him about what happened, right? I've already told the audience what happened. So we don't need to reiterate that all over again. We can actually, and what we will do is we're just going to skip over him telling his master and we're going to go to his master's reaction. That'll be our attention getter of the story. So each chapter, each section, I'm trying to start off with something to grab the audience's attention, right? Like this was, Drayton said as he breathed deeply, right? So that's our attention getter. It's just the sigh that he's saying as he breathes deeply, right? Like this is, for chapter 4, it was Master Wiggins was waiting outside the temple door, right? I built that anticipation. So they went to the dojo, and now, boom, Master Wiggins is already outside the door when they get there. That's the attention getter. Same thing for the previous chapter. As they traversed through their village, some notorious Cretans came their way. That is our attention getter of that chapter. It's something to hook in the audience, hook in the reader to get them to continue reading. So, for 6, let's start off with saying something like, let's see. We'll say, we'll start off with again, another sound word. And so that's what happened. I'll say that is. So that is what happened to you. So that is what happened to you, my people. Okay. We'll actually make that the question mark. We'll go back up here. We'll put like 3 dots. Give it a hesitation. So that is what happened to you, my pupil. And then here. As I've said before, I started off with spoken word, and the original stories were all spoken. So I am a big practitioner of reading as I write. So I want the flow to help me tell the story. I think that the cadence, the story is going to tell me what to write. Like I haven't outlined anything for this story. So I'm literally just going to keep reading this sentence until the next line comes to me. So we said, so that is what happened to you, my people. And then I'll have another. We'll have another one. We'll say it's a bit unusual. Yeah. It's a bit unusual to say the least. It's a bit unusual to say the least, Master. And then said Wiggins. And then I'll say it's not as unusual as you'd think. Well, I could say it's not unusual as you think. Yeah, I think we'll keep going that. And this doesn't need to be capitalized. It's not as unusual as one might think. I want Master Shui to have a more like proverbial way of speaking, and that'll make it easier because one of the things that we have to consider as we're writing is each person, each character needs to have its own style of speaking. This way, I don't always have to say, said Wiggins, said Master Sway, said LaShawn, said Drayton. These are things that we have to keep in mind as we're writing. So I usually do. I'm usually an architect style writer. So I typically outline heavily before I write my books. But for this, since we are letting the story come to us, we have to have our principles in mind. Uh, this is honestly why my personal recommendation for people that are looking to become authors would be to actually start off as architect writer and just outline and map things out until it's a small enough chunk to where you can handle it. And as you learn the principles of writing and storytelling, then you can go back and do what I'm doing and become a discovery writer. But first, you need to learn the principles because if you can just start sitting down and writing, but if you don't know, like I said before, how to craft an intro, how to have an attention getter, how to build momentum, how to voice characters, all these, your story is it's gonna be a lot harder, and it's not gonna come out as well, just because you don't know the principles of writing. But that is to be expected. But as one might think, and we'll say, so that is what happened to you, my people. It's a bit unusual, to say the least, master, said Wiggins. It's not as unusual as one might think. It's actually an old tablet. Something I could say, like, as one might think. There's actually an old tablet in the um I don't want to say the word temple. Um hmm, let's see. It's not as unusual as one might think. Back when we were on the brink of, yeah, as one might think. And this also give context back when we were on the brink of the ancient. Uh, back when back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings. Yeah, back when we were on the brink of begins. I feel like that is not. Something's not right. I think it's. We'll fix that later. Just because that's gonna bother me, and I don't want to turn on the Grammarly right now or look that up. But that is what the editing phase is for. So for you out there writing, don't be afraid. You just need to get the story out. Like you just need to get the story out. You can always go back, and you should go back and edit later several times. I cannot repeat that enough. You should go back and edit several times and reread the book out loud several times. This way you can catch as many mistakes as you possibly can. Whew. Okay, it's not unusual as one might think. Back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, and then I'll say, back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, there was an old tale told by the elders of something quite similar. Yeah, I think we're going to transition this to. This will be how we mark their adventure. So Drayton's going to try and figure out what is happening to him and what is what is going on. So essentially he's going to be inspired by this whole conversation to go on adventure and find the the artifacts of the tale that explains what is going on to him, and that will probably be our first book. That will be our first book. So in the beginning, I kind of foreshadow that either Drayton can save the world or condemn it. Like he's going to be so powerful that he can literally destroy the planet. But the first book in this, because we're going to make this a series, So the first book in this, Drayton's just going to be trying to figure out what in the world happened to him because it was extremely painful. He grew like half a foot in a night. So we're going to have his whole adventure for the book be him trying to figure out what happened to him and him going through trials and running into different antagonists and different bad guys along the way. So, so that is what happened to you, my pupil. It's a bit unusual to say the least, master, said Wiggins. It's not as unusual as one might think. Back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, there was an old tale told by the elders of something quite similar. And then we'll say both Drayton and LaShawn's eyes widened. Um, man. both Drayton and Deshawn, both Drayton and LaShawn's eyes widened like a sliding door. Yeah, it's not as unusual as one might think. Back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, there was an old tale told by the elders of something quite similar. Both Drayton and LaShawn's eyes widened like a door. This was the first time they saw context. Um, 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 like widened like a sliding door. More so, Drayton's. More so Drayton's than LaShawn's. Uh, but that was to be expected. Both Drayton and LaShawn's eyes widened like a sliding door, like a sliding door. More so Drayton's than LaShawn's, but that was to be expected. That was to be expected. After um, hmm, it's not as unusual as one might think. Back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, there was an old tale told by the elders of something similar. Both Drayton's and LaShawn's eyes widened like a sliding door. There was more to the tale, and more. Yeah, I'll say there was more to the tale. There was more. Uh, there was more context to their circumstances and more explanations they needed to know. there's more context to their circumstances and more information they need. I'll just yeah, not explanation. We'll go information. Information they needed to know. The glow within and Drayton's gaze was one of hope. Um, glow within Drayton's gaze had a shimmer. I'll say that. A shimmer that would make anyone smile. Had a shimmer that would I don't want to say make anyone smile. Had a shimmer that would I would say it had a shimmer similar to similar to the starry sky. Reflected off a midnight lake. Full of darkness. Full of darkness with enough hope to make then to make the evening beautiful. To make full of darkness with enough hope to make the evening beautiful. Drayden LaShawn's eyes were like a sliding man. Ah, Drayden and LaShawn's eyes widened like a sliding door. There was more. This is what happens with my brain. There was more context to their circumstances and more information they needed to know. The glow with Drayden. The glow. The glow in Drayton's gaze had a similar. The glow in Drayton's gaze had a shimmer similar to the starry sky reflected on a midnight lake, full of darkness with enough hope to make the evening beautiful. Please tell me the tale, master. Uh, honestly, I also feel, is it? Yeah, I think it's that one, actually. I don't know. I'll have to double check later. All the homophones are uh gonna clog up my brain from writing the story if I harp on them too much right now. Full of darkness with enough hope to make the evening beautiful. Please tell me the tale, master. I must know what is happening. Happening to my body. And then I'll say, earlier, earlier, when Drayton I were fighting, uh, Clement and his gang. And then I just want to go back up and double check which gang member I had Drayton uh, extinguish, so to say. um, let's see. Uh, I think Dustin is yeah, Dustin. We the character we killed off earlier was Dustin. Dustin he dot dot dot. The boys. I'll say the young men because now we transition them into young men. Looked at each other. The young men gave each other a look that finished the sentence. I'll say. Yeah, the young men gave each other a look that finished the sentence. Nothing needed to be said. Nothing needed to be said. At least not yet. For now, listening was the priority. For now, listening was the priority. Hmm. Please tell me the tale, master. I must know what is happening to my body. Earlier, when Drayton and I were fighting, Clement and his gang, the boys, Dustin, the young men gave each other a look that finished the sentence. That is the sentence. Nothing needed to be said, at least not yet. For now, listening was the priority. Was their priority. Master Shui had knowledge. Master Shui was wise. Uh, he had been uh, Master Shui was wise. Master Shui had. I'll just say, yeah, I'll do it again. Little repetition. Now, repetition is something that you have to be careful. If you do it too much, you'll exhaust the words. But if you use it tastefully, it can be a very good literary device. Master Shui Master Sway was knowledge. Master Sway was wise. Master Sway had knowledge. Uh, let's see. What's top priority? Master Sway had knowledge. Um, what's priority? We're gonna change this sentence. We're not gonna describe Master Sway. At least not yet. For now, listening was their priority. Was their priority? They both they they were in a pit of ignorance. They were in a pit of ignorance, and Master Sway had knowledge. We'll say, I, you know what? This might be. It is kind of a good place to stop. It is kind of a good place to stop. Because it's like a cliffhanger. It's like a cliffhanger. So, so that is what happened to you, my pupil. It's a bit unusual to say the least, master, said Wiggins. It's not as unusual as one might think. Back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, Mexican War of Beginnings. Back when we were on the brink of the War of Beginnings, and we might even italicize that. Yeah. There was an old tale told by the elders of something quite similar. Well, Drayton and LaShawn's eyes widened like a sliding door. There was more context to their circumstances and more information they needed to know. The glow in Drayton's gaze had a shimmer similar to the starry sky reflected off a midnight lake, full of darkness with enough hope to make the evening beautiful. Please tell me the tale, master. I must know what is happening to my body. Earlier, when Drayton and I were fighting Clement and his gang, Dustin and he, the young men gave each other a look that finished the sentence. Nothing needed to be said. At least not for now. Well, yeah, at least not yet. For now, listening was their priority. They were in a pit of ignorance, and Master Sway had knowledge to fill. And Master Sway had knowledge. I don't know if I want to say knowledge to fill it. Um, let's see. They were in a pit of ignorance, and Master Sway had knowledge. Yeah, this is a good place to start. I don't know if this will be the end of this particular chapter. We could make it that way. I will click the add page button, and that annoyed me. Um, can I do it this? Bruh, what? Okay, before I get frustrated with all of this, and these are my other books, in case you were wondering. These are not all of them, but again, this is a template that I used for writing my last book. So these are some of the books that I've written in case you want to check them out and see that I know what I'm talking about, especially this. This is a lot of fiction, poetry, storytelling. So if you want to know, for those that do care, I will leave the link in the description to my previous books. This way, you know that I'm not just someone talking and voicing this over, but I actually do this. I actually have written 3 books. But this has been a good stopping place. I hope that you guys found some value in today and what we're talking about. As far as what I mentioned before, how the thing that holds a lot of people back is the fact that They just don't sit down to write. And today is a testament to that. Like, I did not feel like writing today, but we did. And we got something done. We are closer. And that is how you get done. That is how you become a published author, is you just take small steps. Whatever step you can take it and take it often. So I'm going to continue to write this story and keep showing you guys what it's actually like. Today, we may or may not have even finished a chapter, and that is okay. So, when you're writing, just give yourself some grace and just remember all motion forward is motion forward. All progress is progress. Even if it's something you don't like, even if you had to get some words out and then you had to erase some. So, just keep your heads up as you're on your writing journey. Just try and be as consistent as you can and just sit down. Sit down to write because that is the hardest part. But I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you writers next time.